Decide the fate of the canvas. They both have really good points. How well written is this? Hola ballers, my French companions, as we have a lot to discuss today because it was the end of the story and the major choice that you have to make. And I imagine that everybody here who had a simple A or B choice here probably has different justifications for the choice they made here. So before we get into this, first of all, the fact that I can say that means that this is easily one of the most well-written video game stories of all time. I'm very, very comfortable saying that. This is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. It takes all the elements we talked about the last few days, is keeping the characters, keeping the overall story arc nice and simple, focusing on family conflict. Everybody's got some sort of family interaction for the most part and can relate to some aspect of what's going on, and having a cast of characters that in a very real way focuses essentially on like 3 of them, and everybody else is a good supporting character with a nice, simple, easy to understand backstory that gives very, very good context to their logical, sensible reactions to what's going on in the game. So to break that down for you, if you like, that sounds like a lot of words. We have, you know, nine or so main characters of the story. But if you really break it down, you think about SK. SK is a childhood imaginary friend. So how would SK react to most things? Simply by just being extra supportive, loves you regardless. Nice, simple way of SK behaving that gives him good flavor and good character. We think about Monoko. Monoko is a dog. It's based on a dog. How would a loyal companion, as dogs are, respond to most situations and would have the playfulness of a good dog? Right? We can even look at this with Lune and CL. Lune has an interesting upbringing where her family most likely loved her, but were also focused on saving the rest of the world and pushed her into that avenue. So she has some conflicts about whether or not it was love or just replacing them when they inevitably were gamaged. But they considered the work important. So she's formed from that, and she has good, solid character growth and personality based on that simple premise. Doesn't need to go any further than that. CL has the obvious trauma that would happen in this world of somebody dying before the gamage, which is probably one of the worst things that can happen in this society. That with a level of predictable expected death, it happening at a different time is crushing. Extra crushing.
I would have done anything to see him again.
Yeah. Big true, CL.
To hear his voice. His arms around me. Every day, I just felt the lack of him.
Yeah, CL's a top tier character.
He used to inhabit. The dip in the chair where he sat. The hollow of his shoes. The emptiness inside his jacket.
And then we combine it with the fact that she was pregnant at the time and was driven to suicide by such a tormented act. There's great interwoven things here that we find out, such as SK is the one that saved her, which then ties lovely into the writing of why SK knew her originally. He's like, oh, you're the bad swimmer, and it's because he saved her from drowning. And he could... A wonderful imaginary aspect of an imaginary character is that he could hear her tears from across the ocean. That's the kind of person that SK would be as the ever-loving, ever-supportive character, right? So all of this has been given this very simple mini-biography, very few lines, like this is the blurb that you're going in with, that they could give to the voice actors as well. It's like, this is your character, these are the events that's happened to you with the trauma, and we are going to respond with somebody who carries that level of baggage. And then from there, they're very easily going back and weaving in bits of storyline and dialogue throughout the game that ties these characters together in different ways. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous, but simple, nice and effective. And the characters that we do focus on have a slightly more complex story, but still very understandable. Now, why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because this has made Expedition 33 a game where practically everybody can follow along as the whole story unfolds. Not just bits and pieces with little details and stuff missing. I often find when writers get a little I wouldn't say egotistical, but go a little too far with trying to maybe mislead, twist, or throw in details that they're hoping like the select few who pay more than just observant attention to every line of dialogue that's delivered will pick up on and maybe then go and explain it later. The most like obtuse version of that would probably be the Souls series. FromSoft buries its story in item descriptions, which you have to be kind of a super user to go through that and find it out. And many of us, I'm sure listening to this, who are interested in those games will go back and allow a YouTube video to explain it to us. And that YouTuber has done countless amounts of research, if they're any good, looking at the thoughts and discoveries of hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have buried their time into finding these details and these crucial things that tie everything together. Expedition 33 is the exact opposite. It's like, it's nice, it's steady, it's very well paced, and everybody just proceeds along as they would in this world. And the only suspension of disbelief going on in the entire game is actually that in the real world, in Paris, is that these writers and these painters, those are the only two casts we know of, are able to create worlds and canvases that you can physically enter in a Inception style of entering the dream world, right? So from there, it's pretty extraordinary. Now, getting to this choice and why it carried so weight. Like, it literally did bring a tear to my eye to make this choice. Are we going to see Daddy destroy the painting? I'm not gonna lie, there's some wateriness there. That was a great finale. Very tough choices, which I didn't expect, because before this I obviously didn't connect with Gustav dying because I expected it to happen very early. So I was like, okay, well, this guy's gonna die. But this time around, it's very different. Now I'd connected with these characters, and these were very understandable and very relatable characters. I felt very differently. So let's establish our main characters, because for those of you not playing, this video is probably going to see a lot of discussion in the YouTube comments, and rightfully so, because, as I said, everybody will have a different justification for what's going on, because in the best of ways, everybody has a sympathetic reason for making their choice, despite the horrible outcomes that come from both of their choices. And that's the best way you want to write it. Is somebody a villain? In many people's eyes, certain people will be a villain here, but it will be different. And that's how you want to write that. They're not actually a villain. They're just, their reasons and motivations are something you can completely understand. So if we start with the obvious one, Verso. Verso is known for a very, very... Why does Verso's mission throughout the entire game is to be manipulative and to lie to the expedition, for the simple reason is he knows they're not real. He knows he's not real. They're painted characters living in a fantasy world. He's been there for a very, very long time, and he also knows his real-life counterpart is dead. And he's tired, and he wants this to come to an end. He's been here for so, so long, and he's more than ready for this immortal nightmare where he gets cut in half for fun. He cannot die, and he's basically the living embodiment of the nightmare of his mother, which isn't really his mother because he's not real. And he wants that to come to an end. That is totally understandable. Very simple to understand. Then we have Renoir, the father, the patriarch, who also wants this to be done. He wants to get his wife and now his daughter out of there. And he's had to stay there in an endless battle. We find that Clea, the older sister who's not in the painting, who is dealing with the actual writers who led to this tragedy within the family, who somehow manipulated my Alicia / Mael to cause the fire where she was burned and scarred, and also led to the death of Verso. She's dealing with the actual real-life consequences of what's going on. But we have the patriarch, who has been working behind the scenes because what he sees every day, in a very Inception style, is he sees his wife plugged into this canvas, but her physical body is deteriorating, it's withering, she's going to die because she cannot let go of this last drip of Verso's real Verso soul that is within the artwork.
67 years. 67 years I spent trapped within the monolith. But I persisted. I persisted. Do you know why? Do you know why I cannot leave her or you behind? This is what I see every day. I cannot spend another day with living corpses. Since the fire, our family has crumbled. Aline in the canvas. Clea fighting a solitary war.
Oh, Lune's just like really curious. I love that touch. Oh, outside.
Ghost. Verso's death broke us. Want it to be fixed. I need it to be fixed. I cannot lose you too.
And she just can't let go, and she can't face the grief that he's gone, and for the final piece of him to be physically gone, because Renoir wants to destroy the painting, and for understandable reasons. If there is a way, and obviously I'm relating this from a parent's point of view. I am a father, and I see how my wife looks at my children. If one of my children was to pass away, but there was actually a genuine living piece of them still alive, she would never let that go. She would never let that go. And Renoir's very aware of that. Maëlle is in a different situation. Maëlle wants to hide the painting. She understands they need to get Mother out. But she's got the different perspective of, one, in the real world, she's disfigured and she can't speak. But in here, she can. She was also born here as Maëlle. She has lived that 13 years, or 16 years of her life in this world. These created painting people are as real to her as anybody else. And she loves them dearly. She wants to stay there, and she gets to be with her brother. She obviously feels immense guilt about causing his death. All that is true, but she also wants her mother out, so she wants to hide the painting so Mother can never find it again. And then Renoir's like, she will always find it. If she knows it exists, she's going to find it. And there's nothing here that is incorrect. And that's the beauty of it. There's nothing here that's incorrect. If you were disfigured to the point, where you were a shut-in and you literally couldn't vocalize yourself, you couldn't speak, but there is a way you can with people that you love in a fantastical world with imaginary weapons and flying across the ocean and mountainsides and being alongside your brother that you caused the death of. Of course you would want to be there. Of course you would want to be there. So all these elements play so well into what's going on. I went to do the finale because I would like to point, this is a side note, but I was speaking to some streamers last night, as we tend to do off stream, as we have DMs and things, and we had a little bit of a group chat going with some streamers that are much larger than me, in fact. And all of them have pointed out the constant aggravation they've had with some members of the audience, especially what we call tourists. They're not the regular watchers. They come to watch various story games and want to see reactions to it. And some of you might be here now of blasting them for being overpowered in the scaling of the game. Like, this has to stop. Like, there are so many of them who were like, I kind of wanted to just stop playing the game. Like, these people were spoiling it for me. Just let people play. Just let people play. Let them do what you want to do. You're not curating their experience. It is the way it plays out. I've had bad experiences with it, like I did with Breath of the Wild. Like, the last boss, I just clapped into the floor. But this is true of every RPG that's like this. We know, especially seasoned streamers, in an RPG, if you're going to do the side content because you're enjoying yourself, yeah, you're going to be stronger than the main story, which is designed to be done without you doing side content. Right? It's just, it was very upsetting to see how many people were like, dude, like, it's become intolerable, especially those who haven't finished yet. I was like, I'm just constantly being spammed with, like, you should take off you should take off Pictos. You should use no weapons stronger than whatever arbitrary number they've decided. Even if those things have been provided. Like, you get the damage break from the MSQ. Like, the game literally gives it you for doing the main story. And people are like, you shouldn't wear that. It's like, the game literally gives it you in the main story. This isn't something I went and killed some super boss early for to get. They literally expect you to have it at this point. Like, stop being so silly. Either way. I understood what people were saying. I was like, fine, I'll go and do the main story. Like, I wasn't even planning on doing that, but I got so many DMs. I was like, fine, let me just get this out of the way to just stop this nonsense. Either way, I went to do the story. Which is just basically the final showdown. There was a couple of revelations here that actually make a lot of the rest of the game so much more touching. First of all, I finally realized that the young boy, the lost soul that we kept finding, was in fact the real Verso. Isn't it beautiful? Your paintings are always astonishing. I wish you would understand just what it means for me to paint. This is Verso, isn't it? This is Verso. That all makes sense now. Yeah, that's Verso. The little boy's Verso. And when that dawned on me, I was like, oh, okay. Most of the things he's been saying now throughout the game actually makes so much more sense once you realize this is the real Verso, the fragmented soul of Verso. Oof. And the interesting part is, like, I think he said a line something like, do I continue? She needs me to continue. I don't want to continue. And I was like, well, continue what? What are you doing? What is going on here? That was a great moment. But ultimately, the big showdown, which is with the real Renoir / Omega Lul. So we've got Painted Renoir, which is the characters that Claire has been manipulating, and the real people that are in there. I loved the way this played out in a cinematic way. FF16 must have been going, oof, that's good. Because they have their big cinematic mega RPG masterpieces in that game, but they're far more like Marvel. This is a little bit more like Schindler's List. Looking at the colors, much more emotional weight going on here rather than just spectacle and laser guns in space. I love that the elements of the children came. Visage, Reacher, Seren, that are based on the children, appeared. The protectors of Mother, they appeared. And then the ultimate, like, oh, you're in trouble now because Mummy turns up to control her children. Ooh! He's summoned the family! Oh, shit! Full caravan!
We must accept things as they are, not how we want them to be.
Where's the third? Do we get to see Claire?
I do love a challenge, but this is beginning to irk me.
Fuck. He keeps regenerating.
Maybe we focus on the axons first.
Mommy?
No, she can't.
Oh, shit! Oh, shit! Fucking hide Aline. Aline is here. We walk.
Mama.
Aline, you're going to kill yourself. It's too soon for you to return to any canvas.
Mommy wants what's best for the kids. You're getting a spanking. That was brilliant. Like, all that happening, I was like, oh, that is cool. That is very, very cool. And gameplay-wise, the fight is fantastic, but it's not about that. It's more about what the story that's playing out while it's happening. And you just know when that portal opens, Mummy's coming, and you guys are in deep, deep diarrhea, dude. It's going brown time as Mummy arrived. And ultimately, we do put Daddy down and send him out. So now it comes down to the choice. This was great. I actually wasn't foreseeing this happening at all, is that they kept going. And then it went to this nexus of the painting, I guess the brain of the painting, the core of the painting, where we find the fragmented soul of Verso still painting, creating on behalf of Mother to keep the dream alive. He's still going. And he's so tired. He's so done. He's like, I just don't want to do this, but she keeps making me do this, and I want to stop. I'm done. And Verso's like, we can stop. It's over. But then Mael says, no. This does not stop, because this is my world, and I love these people. And if we stop painting and the painting is destroyed, all of Lumiere, all of them will die. All of them will disappear, and these are living people to me. Again, that's we understand entirely why either side wants what's happening. And you have to choose. Do you fight as Verso to defeat Mael, or do you fight as Mael to defeat Verso? Oh, man. This took me a while to consider it. I made a joke at the time, but it was more just to, you know, play around with the audience, the live audience, is that he has more power, because we have not leveled Mael at all in any way. She's wearing like 0 pictos, no weapons, nothing. But the real genuine reason, I will justify my reason here. I actually recommend you watch the VOD, because we talked about this for maybe an hour and a half afterwards, of everybody giving their different inputs, and my entire team had different motivations for the choices they made. I looked at it from, for me, it came down to my fatherly perspective. If it was my child that had something like this happen to, like they did to Alicia, and was in this sort of, I could compare it to a sort of VR world where they could do whatever they wanted to do in a Black Mirror style play. And I was like, I've never known in my entire life not facing grief as being a healthy thing to do. And I've actually done this. When my father died, I felt, maybe in an overly masculine way or whatever, but I felt compelled to be the strong one, as I was the new patriarch of our side of the family, so to speak, even though I was pretty young. I was 19, I think, when my dad died. I felt compelled to take up that mantle and to be strong for my mother and other people, to keep things going forward, to be a stable rock and foundation. I never really dealt with the fact that my dad just died. Like, I was organizing things, funerals, making sure people were at A to B, what documentation needed to take place, making sure my mother was okay because she had lost her life partner, right? I did all those things for like 3 weeks until after the funeral. And then I even made a decision then, as like, I'm ready to go back to work and start earning and bringing income into the household, because my dad was the income earner at that point of life, and to take that back up and make sure like our household is supported. And I'd moved back in with my mother because she needed more help. She wasn't dealing with it very well. I remember that first day going back in, and I did work for about 5 minutes, and then I said, oh, I'm just going outside, and I just sat outside for like 3 hours, and then it dawned on me, because I was now back in like the real world. Literally, I was out of that bubble of my father's death. And I was now in the real world, where the clock was still ticking, the sun was still moving, well, the earth was moving, the day was moving, and everybody else was just getting on with their lives. And that's when it hit me, and it hit me really hard, and I had to deal with it there. I remember just being sat outside and like tears rolling down my face. I was like, oh my God, my dad's dead. And then started actually working through it to the point where, you know, I dealt with it and things like that. And I was thinking about my kids. I would want them to not live out their lives entirely within a fantasy world, because we have a moment where Mael tells Renoir, like, I just want to stay a little bit longer. I won't be here forever. And Verso clearly points out, is like, we know you're lying, and he knows you're lying. You're never leaving here. I don't think that's good, especially considering she's gifted as a paintress. Is that in the real world, she can do a lot of wonderful things as well that I don't think she realizes as being a teenager, because she's also written from the perspective of a teenager, and that comes relevant shortly. Is that she can paint thousands of fantastical worlds, and she can visit those, and I understand that you want to be able to speak and things, but that's not a reality out there. But you can make it your reality, and it's just not in this protective bubble you've built for yourself to face the trauma of what's actually happened to your family and what's happened to you, but to actually utilize it in a different way. And I would want my kids to do that in the real world, is to use their gifts that they absolutely have rather than put that aside and live out a fantasy life. However, I understand the temptation to do that. And if that is a better life, is that a better life? Maybe. Maybe. On the other hand, I totally get it with Verso. I totally get it. This place sucks, man. It's not real. I'm done. I've been here forever. It's just not okay. This is just a fantasy, and I don't want to live in a fantasy, especially knowing the reality of my situation and the reality these people are facing with gamages and things like that to keep this thing ticking over. Like, this is a prison. It's a beautiful, wonderful prison, and I want out of it. And it's just the worst. It's absolutely the worst. So I chose to fight as Verso as my main story choice. I have to say the ending here was very uplifting to me, given what I've just told you. Verso's ending is that they all do their painting stops getting painted. He walks away with his real life counterparts, part of the soul. They stop painting, and the painting withers and dies without him painting anymore. And we see the family starting to deal with their trauma in the real world by visiting Verso's grave. We see Mother is looking healthier and better. Claire is there. Mael is now starting to do things. All those elements happen with a simple funeral scene, although Lumiere and the expeditions are now but a distant memory that can't be reforged. That the family in the real world is coming together and starting to face the issues that they really need to deal with without withering away and dying. I liked that a lot. I actually was very satisfied with that ending. Then we did Mael's ending. Mael's ending is horrible. I hated it. I'm very glad with my Verso choice. It actually made me very much dislike Mael, although everything she's doing makes sense, and it ties into her age. Mael's ending, as she defeats Verso, is Verso begs her on his last possible breath, "Stop this. Stop it, please. And don't repaint me. Just let me go."
Please, listen to me. Only you can do this. You can do this, please. Unpaint me. Unpaint me. Please. I don't want this life.
Stop saying that.
I don't want this life. I don't want this life.
I just wanted to live this lifetime together. This lifetime that was stolen from us. Please. Bro. Please.
I don't want this life. Help me. Help me.
Now, I would like to play the whole cutscene for you here, but it's very long. But there is a relationship improvement thing you do at the camp with Mael and Verso. And the crux of it is, Mael asks Verso a question like, would you lie to me? And you have a choice at that point, yes or no. And you say, if you tell the truth, which is what I did, she appreciates it, but she also goes on a rant about how it's unfair to not take into account the wishes of people and not fulfilling their desires if they've made it abundantly clear to you. Like, it's a whole thing that she goes on. And then, of course, it's written because of the hypocrisy that she's about to go against her own moral values. And I totally got this. And many of you may not have had to deal with this, but in your mind, I think a lot of people consider themselves to have been the hero, the one who would stand up against, like, there's clear right and wrongs, right? In an almost sort of comic book style Captain America type situation. It's like, and I would always make the choice that's right. Until you're faced with a nuanced choice where right and wrong play into both sides. And also, when you finally have to face that choice, it's not as easy as you think. It's not as easy as you think. Some people will still sit there going, yeah, it is. It's like, you've never faced the choices I'm talking about here. And especially as a youngster, you would like to believe you're going to do the good and right, and then she doesn't. She goes against her own moral compass. She doesn't, because her desires are more than yours. Or the other person's. It's as simple as that, right? Her personal benefits for what she wants, it trumps what you want, despite her little tirade at Verso here. And she does, we then get a cutscene which starts nice and ends really badly. Now, a lot of people are going to draw different things from this cutscene. It's actually done very well by the devs. It's not overly animated to clearly give, like, what they believe, and they've said there is no right or wrong choice here. We go to the concert, which is mentioned earlier in the game. She wants to hear Verso's first concert back in Lumiere's concert hall. We see Gustav is back, Sophie is back, all the expeditioners are back. You know, she's brought everybody back, essentially. And all the main characters sat there, and she's so happy that all her friends are alive and well, and they're sat and they're going to listen to Verso play. And then we see Verso come out onto the stage, and the repainted Verso freezes and begins to cry because he is a puppet on strings and he does not want to be here. And then the illusion is shattered by Mael when she has to use her paintress powers to push him forward, and he begins to play. My takeaway from this is, and again, I might be projecting here because of my other choice, my real choice, is that she is regret. She's made the wrong choice, and she knows it. But that might not be how it is, and I'll justify this. Everything is perfect, but it's not, and that keeps breaking the fourth wall, so to speak. It keeps pulling her out of her fantasy, because it is a fantasy that she's living, and it keeps pulling her out. And Verso in particular is doing that. And every now and again, she needs to stop being the happy-go-lucky Mael in this wonderful world where everyone's alive, and she has to be the paintress and push to make it work. And I feel like in her mind, after talking to my kids and watching them make some silly choices, is that she probably truly believes is like, if he just gets with the program, this is better for him. I'm showing him a better way. Like, he's just not getting it, but he will, because this is better than the alternative where he's gone. Like, it just needs that little nudge. He'll get used to it. Like, it's fine. He's just resisting because of blah, blah, blah. But this is a much better world. I know what's best for him. That kind of approach. But unquestionably is pulling her out of the fantasy every time she has to do those things. And who knows how many times she has to do those things. And I think the dawning on her is that it's a bad choice, or it's the wrong choice, or she goofed. But also, I can fix it, right? And the amount of times I've seen my kids make some absolutely stupid decisions, but they're like, I can still fix it. My choice was correct. I can still make it work. Even something simple like taking the laundry upstairs. If there's a lot, I'm like, just do 2 trips. It's like 20 seconds. Like, no, I can do it all, even though it's like falling everywhere, having to pick stuff up, I've got to put it down, like all this. I can do it. It was the right choice. And that's the impression I took away from it, especially because she is still a teenager. Of like, it'll work, and then everything's going to be perfect. Once everything's sorted, it'll be all perfect. It'll be fine. We'll fix it. That's what I took away from it. Other people might have a different situation. Wow. This was so beautifully written and tied together. Loved it. Absolutely adored it. I'm going to do a separate video on a lot of the relationship stuff because we did some more stuff that day, but I think this is the main crux of this topic here for the TDP. So I'll come back to it then. But I would love to see... I know you guys have a lot of thoughts about this stuff, but yeah, absolutely stunning. Stunning writing. Done super well. Enjoyed the hell out of it. Onwards to the relationship stuff. We'll do that next. Bye, guys.